Hi, my name is Renette Filmer, and I am your host for this lunch hour. And I am going to share with you how to level up by getting your voice heard. So, a little bit of history about myself. My name is Renette Filmer Etzler. I am a coach, I'm a consultant for human resources, as well as I help people to create, launch, and transform their life. And what does that mean? That means I have gone through so many journeys in my life, and I've learned to create, launch, and transform from those experiences, not only in my personal life, but in my professional life. And I have been in executive roles where I've been in rooms where there's either a lot of men in the room and they tend to not want to listen to what a woman has to say, or they downplay what I have to say. So I've really had to learn how to get my voice heard and understand the dynamics of getting your voice heard. So I'm going to share that with you today. I'm going to share some tips on how to get there, and we're going to look at what you need to do for yourself to get you where you want to go. So I know it's the lunch hour, so I just want you to get out of your chair and do a little, get yourself up and moving again, get yourself energized, and eat your lunch while you listen to what I have to say today. So I'm looking forward to helping you level up in your job through this summit that we're doing with Paul Casey. So, get my slide here. All right, so do you struggle with speaking up in the workplace? There are a lot of people that struggle with speaking up in the workplace. And what is the reason for that? Some of it is fear. People fear just speaking in general. They fear what people are going to say, what people are going to think. They just have this fear around speaking to other people or sharing their ideas. Bullies, maybe we have bullies in the workplace that tend to bully or say things like that's dumb, or that's a bad decision, or why would you want to do that? All of those things wrap into why people don't want to speak up in the workplace. I might say something stupid or sound silly. How many of you feel that way? Gosh, if I say something, I'm going to sound silly, I'm going to sound stupid. I think I really just probably should say nothing at all. My voice does not matter. This is probably the one that I hear the most from employees in the workplace. And I hear this not only from employees, from line staff to higher level executives. They say, well, you know what? Every time I say something, it doesn't matter anyway. They do what they want to do. Well, that may not always be true. Sometimes it takes people time to process and understand what they want to say before they say it. So my voice does not matter. Let's just eliminate that from our heads altogether and stop the negative self-talk. And let's go ahead and say that my voice does matter. And here are the ways that I'm going to make it matter. I'm going to learn about that today. Your voice does matter. And as you are learning about your voice and how to get your voice heard in the workplace, I just want to share with you a couple of things. So, number one, check yourself. Where are you at in the spectrum? What is your reputation? What do people think about you? Here's some things to think about as far as thinking and checking yourself. First of all, it takes courage to speak up, to change, to speak up, to do the research, to know the answers to the questions. You may need to take time to make sure that you're checking yourself and that you have the courage that it takes to speak up and say the things that you need to say. Do you have the courage to change and be part of the change, to be part of the process? I think you do. You have to find that courage within yourself and just do it. Know your why. Why do you want to speak up? Why do you want to have a voice? You know why? Because you have words that matter. You have a voice that matters in the workplace. You have good ideas. There may be people that don't do your job. You're the only one that does your job. So you're the only one that understands. And people are designing and making these changes for you instead of you being part of that change. So know your why. Why do you want to be a voice? Why do you want to speak? And when you know that you want to talk, know why you want to talk and what you want to say. Not always do we know what we want to say though, right? Because we don't know what's actually going to come up. But it takes courage, and I know that you have it. So things that you need to do first in the workplace. Look around your environment and where you're at right now. And do you need to build trust with the people that you work with? with the managers, with the executives, with your boss, with a supervisor, with other employees, with coworkers, wherever you are at on the organizational chart, you need to look around and say, hey, do people trust me? Do they understand what I'm about? You must also know how to get to yes. So we have these employees sometimes that they just want to say no to everything. They don't want to be cooperative. They don't want to be able to get to yes to be able to help people do what they need to do. Instead of saying no next time to somebody when they come to you and say, hey, can I do this or that? And you say, yeah, that's not our policy. We don't do that, or whatever it may be, is that, I don't know, let's look at this. How do you think that we can get to yes in your mind? Like, ask them, what is their ultimate goal? Once you know their ultimate goal, you're more bound to be able to get to yes. And if people know that you are someone that they can work with, you're building that trust, you're building that relationship. Now, I don't want you to be a rollover and just say yes to everything. Sometimes it's going to be a hard no, but sometimes you may be able to do some things that are, it's the ultimate answer is still a no, but you can still do some things to make it work for the person that's asking for help. Understanding people and people dynamics. I'm going to get to this a little more in another slide, but you have to understand how people work and what the dynamics are in the workplace. And where do you fit in that dynamic? And then initiating change positively. Being a strategic partner, understanding the strategic plan and being able to speak to it, making sure that your ideas and the things that you are doing align with that business plan. If you don't have your business plan posted online or you don't know where it's at, ask your manager, ask your supervisor. Anytime you go into a new job, ask them, do you have a strategic plan? Is it something that I can look at? Do you have strategic goals? When you're applying for jobs, you should be asking, do you have strategic goals? There's so many companies out there that don't have those strategic plans. They say, I worked for a company one time and I said, do you have a strategic plan? And they said, no, that things change too fast in their industry that they can't have a strategic plan. Not true. You should be planning for those things that happen in the industry. There is not a technology company out there. And those are the companies that move the fastest that don't have a business plan. Do you need to build your self-confidence? Do you need to build your self-confidence? Build your self-confidence. That way you say what you say matters. If you are confident in what you are saying, people are going to be confident that you have great ideas. And make sure that what you say matters. This is all starting small. Starting small, number one, is build yourself. And think of the things that you need to do as an individual to make yourself more marketable in the workplace. Assess. If you have not taken personality assessments to understand who you are, then you are missing the boat. So to level up and do what you need to do, you need to take some personality tests to find out who you are. And then once you take those personality tests, I want you to really study the different personalities within that spectrum. If you study the different personalities, then you start to understand more about how you can engage and how you can work better with the people that you work with, how you can communicate better, and how you can change your personality style or the way that you communicate with somebody based on their personality style. This is not manipulating. This is understanding people and working with people. If you can understand somebody else's personality type and how it works with yours, then you are ahead of the game by so far. I'm a D. I'm a high D. I'm also an influencer when you look at the DISC assessment. So I'm an ID or a DI, sorry, I'm a DI, very high on the D chart. But once I understood that about myself, I never knew about the DISC assessment. This was 6 years ago that I found out about it. Once I started doing more research and understanding the DISC, all of the different categories, it was life-changing on how I dealt with and responded to people in the workplace. Because as a D, I am a driver. I want you to get it done. I don't want to have any nonsense, no BS. I just want to get it done. And so I pushed people away. I didn't build relationships. I pushed people away. And so until you understand that dynamic about yourself and who you are, it's not going to make a difference. So I really encourage you to go online and do some free assessments. There are some DISC assessments out there that you can do for free, or you can also go online and you can pay to get a DISC assessment done. You can also do 13 personality types, which is like a Myers-Briggs, which you can also do. You can also pay for it if you'd like to. And then there's Strength Finders. Strength Finders is amazing, especially if you are struggling on what you want to do when you grow up. Strength Finders is going to help you understand your different personality types. So, or all the things that you have strengths in. And so once I did my Strength Finder probably about 4 years ago, it was life-changing because I knew now, it confirmed what I already knew about myself, really. And so it gives you your 39 different strengths and in order of your strength. So you get your top 5, you get your bottom 5, so you know where your strengths and your weaknesses are. You got to know those in order to start building your voice and being heard in the workplace, because it matters when you know who you're talking to and how to talk to them. Lastly, assess your values. Do you have your own values? My values are loyalty, relationships, and honesty. And humor. Sorry, forgot that last one. It is so important to know what your values are for so many different situations. But the reason that you want to know what your values are and you want to define what those mean to you. So humor means to me that the people that are in my life are going to make me laugh. I am going to go out and intentionally have fun and laugh and have a good time. I want to be light and cheery and be able to find humor in all situations, one way, shape, or form. Relationships mean something different to me than they might to you. I don't have children. I have stepchildren, but relationships mean to me, those people around me, that I am going to continue to build a long-term relationship with them no matter what, because they provide me humor, loyalty, honesty, and they find relationships important. Now, this goes deeper and deeper as you go into it, but if you don't know what your values are, then you will allow people to step all over you. Don't allow that to happen. Know what your values are and know where you stand firm. If you know these things about yourself, this is all a self-assessment. This is all about taking a look at yourself as you start to speak up in the workplace. You have to know what your personality types are to get there. Manage your reputation. Look around. What's your reputation? Are you somebody that everybody comes to with gossip? But maybe they trust you with their gossip because you don't share with other people? Or are you sharing with other people? So people come to you to get gossip. If you're the gossip king or queen of the office, you're not going to be able to build those relationships. You're not going to be able, people are not going to listen to what you have to say. Super important that you understand this. Your reputation matters in the workplace. Are you the person that is going to take on a new project when you need to? That's going to step up when change is happening in workplace and say, I support this change. What can I do? Can I be on a team to make this happen? Are you going to be that person? Are you always behind in your work? Are you someone that people can depend on to get something done? Do you know how to set your priorities and set your boundaries? Are you someone that takes on projects and then can't get them done because you took on too many projects at one time? Because you wanted to be that person that people felt that they could come to and talk to and you were dependable and reliable? If you're doing that, you only want to take on projects that you can complete and do your best in. You will have more respect for saying, no, I have too much on my plate when you've taken on other projects. But if you on a day-to-day basis are not taking on other projects because you're overwhelmed in your job specifically, then you need to look at your organization of your work time and space and figure out if that is holding you back from being able to jump in other areas. Are you seen as someone that follows through? Is your work quality good? What is your office setting like? Is your office a mess? Is it disorganized? If all of those things, all of those visual things build your reputation. They build your relationships with other people. If your office is unorganized or it's a mess, or you don't know where to find things, that's a problem. So really manage your reputation, and what do you want the vision of people to say, hey, this is who I am. I want people to see me like this. And then you want to design that in the workplace, because as you start to speak up and use your voice, those things all matter. It's building respect from other people. It's, again, building relationships and trust. Okay, bring on the professionalism. This is where things really get important for you. So you've done all the work. Now it's time to be professional in the workplace. And that's thinking like a leader. That's being strategic. It's dressing like a leader. My number one thing that I tell people that want to promote that are young is dress for the job that you want. And you probably heard that before. If you want to do anything to level up, you want to dress for the job that you want. And that's even on Fridays when they wear it and it's jean day. Now, if you are doing some type of team spirited thing on a Friday where you're wearing football jerseys or something like that, then wear jeans. But if you're just allowed to wear jeans on Friday, I encourage you to not wear jeans on Friday. I had a friend one time that asked me, she goes, other people wear hats to work. Do you think it's okay to wear like a baseball cap to work? I'm like, no, if you are looking to promote, you never wear a baseball hat to work. She goes, well, other people do. Then don't do it. You want to be seen as different than the rest. Act and talk like a leader. Understand the leadership and what direction they're going. Share their language and their words. Key in on key things that are happening in the organization and keywords on how they are representing it so that you can be part of that change. Talk professional that aligns with the strategic plan of the organization, and always look big picture. You want to be forward thinking. The number one thing that executives struggle with in the workplace is saying, well, it's always been done that way. You don't want to be that person that says, well, we've always done it that way. You want to be the person that steps up and says, hey, I know we've always done it this way, but I have an idea that I would really like to present to you. And I would like to ask that we do it this way. And this is why we want to do it this way. You always have to have the why. The why is really important. But you also don't want to be that person that says, well, we've always done it that way. And you go ahead and take it on and you do it the new way, but you're also doing it the old way. You want to be the person that says, wait, we don't want to do this the old way anymore, right? We're doing it the new way. This is what I find when I go into organizations the most that absolutely blows my mind, is that they came up with a new system on doing something, but no one ever told them to quit doing it the old way. So they do it like 2 ways, and some companies 3 ways. So you have to be that person that helps them align as a business to not do that. Instead of sitting there quietly and not saying anything, formulate your thoughts and get it out there and think like a leader and a professional. If you were a leader, would you want to know that people were doing things 3 different ways? No. So ask yourself, are there personal changes that you need to make as an individual? After we've gone through all of those, really assess yourself and see where you're at. And if there are, you have plenty of time. 1 day at a time, build those relationships. That person comes to gossip with you and you've been part of that gossip ring. You want to say, you know what, I really want to, try to change how I'm interacting in the workplace, and I don't really want to be part of the gossip anymore. Or you just stop talking. Let them come in, share their information, and give them a few minutes, and then just say, you know what, I have a few things I need to do. But figure out what your strategy is going to be to maneuver out of that gossipy thing arena to build your reputation. Number 2, you need to understand the players. When we are looking at when athletes are getting prepared for a football game, a soccer game, a rugby game, a baseball game, what do you think they do? They go back and they look at video clips of individuals of their teammates, what their teammates could have done better, what they could have done better as an individual, what the other team failed on, what they do good at. They look at every single dynamic as they go into meet with a team. That's what you have to do. All of these things that I'm sharing with you today are going to help build your confidence. If you understand this whole dynamic about speaking up in the workplace and understanding that your voice really does matter and how to build that confidence around it, you are going to be a key player in all of this for your organization. So understanding who you work with, and that's going back to do the personality assessments, but also understanding people's strengths and weaknesses. We all have strengths and weaknesses. We as individuals do. Those that we work with do. Leaders have strengths and weaknesses. And sometimes leveling up means managing up. Now, we don't want to walk into our boss's office and say, we need to manage you. You want to walk into your boss's office and say, hey, you know what? I really see that this project that you're doing a great job on it. Is there, here's some of my strengths. Can I maybe pick up some of these pieces? And maybe there's strengths that offset the weaknesses of your supervisor or your manager. Sometimes you have to manage up in a unique and creative way. Help them help you. Once you build that confidence and do these little things and go to your supervisor and say, hey, you know what? Can I help you with this? Even saying, I see that you might be struggling with this is sometimes okay, depending on the situation. But understand who your opponents are. Understand who's part of your team. Watch them, observe them, see where they shine, see where people come to them because they have an expertise, and see where they go to others because they have a weakness. And try to complement their weaknesses. Next, how to determine the players. Observing, asking other people, understanding the dynamics in the workplace. Who do people go to on a regular basis to talk to, get advice, or share information with? The last organization that I actually worked for, I wasn't consulting, we had a guy there, his name was Dave, and everybody went to Dave because Dave was kind, he was honest, he didn't go and gossip about other people. When you were struggling with someone else in the workplace, which is what I went to him for, I was an executive, he was an executive, and we had an issue with another executive. And I would go and get advice from him. And he would never bash on that other executive. He would never share negative information. He would help me see a different dynamic. So understanding who those players are that are going to help you level up and get where you want to go. Understand the players. They're busy. So if you get an email that's, don't be one of those people that gets an email and says, oh my gosh, that was so rude. Let's think. Maybe that person was really busy, so they just said no to your email. Think about that personality type. I'm a driver. I'm a D. When I send an email, sometimes, I'm short and I say, no. It's not that I mean anything, not that I'm mad at anybody. I just need to get the email out and done. The players are thinking ahead. They often miss opportunities because your voice isn't coming up. You have to share your voice. They often think employees are transactional only. It's the way it is. Executives sometimes just want bodies. We need to make them understand that the bodies that are in those seats matter and that their voices matter and that their voices are going to help them to grow their company. Who are the players typically are? The players are typically executives, but sometimes executives really aren't even the players because no one respects the executives. They respect other people that are making things happen. So observe that and figure out what that means. Sometimes it's the board of directors. Sometimes it's owners of the company. It's an employee that everybody trusts. It's other employees. It's your CFO. It's the admin assistant. So see if who the players are in those scenarios and figure out who it is that you want to build those relationships with. Jumping in with the key players, take it slow. You don't have to jump in tomorrow and make your voice heard, but you need to, start inserting your voice at times because your voice matters. Observe, understand when to insert your voice. Begin to share the alignment, share the vision, set your goals. Align HR with objectives. This was for another presentation and I should have taken that out, so I apologize. Start sharing information regularly. Are you withholding information because you don't have a voice? Withholding information is one of the most detrimental things that you can do to your career. I'm just going to share that with you right now. Not sharing your voice and withholding information is detrimental to your career because people find out you had information that you didn't share. It doesn't matter that you didn't want to speak up or that you were nervous about speaking up. They find you as someone withholding information. Don't be that person. So jump in, do it slow, observe, lay the seeds, start asking questions. Sometimes asking questions is the easiest way to getting used to hearing your voice in a group, hearing your voice in a crowd, and no question is stupid. And do not preface your question with, this may be a stupid question. You can say, I have a question, or I want to understand something a little bit better. Or you guys all may understand this, but I don't, so I'm going to ask this question. But don't ever say, this may be stupid, or this may sound silly. The second that you do that, they have that in their head that, oh gosh, they're going to say something that doesn't make sense. But they also see it as a lack of confidence. You don't want to show that lack of confidence. You are confident. Have a team or teammates. Know the people that you can go to, ask information, share your work with, build your relationships with so that you can help them launch things, be positive, supporting teams in their change. If another team is making some changes in their department, is supporting those changes, supporting the employees through those changes. Hey, how are things going? I know you guys have some changes going on in your department. That's super exciting. Don't be the negative Nelly, be the positive one. Bottom line, you don't make things happen alone. So make sure you're giving credit to other people. If it's another department that's going through change, say, oh my gosh, that department is doing such a great job going through their changes. If they're not doing a great job, don't say it. But if they are, say it. Understand your teammates. Understand how to communicate and speak up when it matters most. People have a hard time speaking up. They have a hard time understanding that their voice does matter. Maybe drawing that out of them as well. Other teammates that don't speak up very much, maybe asking them, hey, how come you don't speak up in the meetings? How come you don't share information with us? Your information is very useful. Be encouraging to those individuals. Number 3, build your professional image. So we talked about looking at ourselves, and that's not building your personal professional image, because that's really learning about yourself and understanding what you need to do in order to build your professional image. So what we are going to do is talk about how do we build that image for ourselves. We've gone through all these things that we want to do to review ourselves, assess ourselves, understand what we want to do in the midst of everything. But now we want to share what you need to do in order to build up your professional image. You've stopped gossiping. You've done some assessments so you understand yourself. You're now understanding the different dynamics in the workplace. You're feeling more confident about speaking up because you do understand all of those things. There's some personality types, I do want to say, that don't typically want to speak up in the workplace. They think their ideas don't matter. But those individuals that think that way, their ideas are usually the best ideas out there. I want to say you probably have the best ideas that you're not sharing. So authenticity and positivity is super important as you start building your image. You don't want to be that negative Nancy that's saying, oh, that's not going to work. Oh, the employees aren't going to like that. Or, yeah, I didn't agree what management was doing either. I just kind of went along with it. You don't want to be that person. Management doesn't want those people. They don't want you to walk in the room, Nancy. Sorry if there's a Nancy on the line here, but they don't want you to walk in the room and start being negative, or they're going to be like, oh gosh, Nancy's here and she's so negative. She never likes any changes that we go through. Some people really struggle with change, and so their negativity really comes out. And if you are one of those people, you have to figure out how to change that dynamic. Understand yourself. So be positive and be realistic. And most important, you have to be authentic. Don't just be this bubbly, oh my gosh, I'm positive person when you're not really feeling it. Now, sometimes we have to do it when we aren't feeling it. We have to do it when we aren't feeling it because we're not always going to agree with the decisions that management makes. And that's okay. But sometimes we have to support their decisions. They're going to happen with or without us. And we have to support those decisions without being negative about it. And if you are, then you're building relationships and you're building trust. When you come with ideas and you are being you're being authentic and you're being positive, you're going to be more creative, and you're going to be more insightful. And people are going to see that in you. Don't be fake. Be part of the change. So change is coming your way. It's going to happen. Management will figure it out as time goes on if people are buying into the change or not. But don't be that person that's not buying into the change, because it's going to happen whether you like it or not. So the sooner you can accept it, the better. Now, that's easy for me to say because I like change. I always think that change is positive. But there are people that struggle with change. And if you're one of those people, go back to the assessment part of this presentation in the number one idea, and look at that. Figure out where that fear comes from of change. And if you can identify that, then as change occurs, you can process yourself through that a little better. Be the one that helps to implement the change. Believe in the change even when you don't. So, like I said earlier, sometimes we don't believe in the change or we don't understand the change. We can put our input in and say, hey, we're talking to our supervisor and say, I'm having a really hard time with this because of this, this, and this, but I really am going to support the decision because I know that this is the way that it's going to go. But I just want to kind of give you a voice that I think there's a few other things that probably need to be looked at before this happens. And maybe they'll take that into consideration and maybe they won't. But your voice was heard and your voice matters. So share that though you may not agree, you're still going to jump in, you're going to support the change for the betterment of the company. And if you don't agree with the change, don't go to other employees and say, oh my gosh, this is the stupidest idea. No, you want to be that person that when people come to you and say, oh my gosh, I don't like the change. Well, what is it that you don't? Again, building relationships. When you build those relationships, people will hear you, your voice will matter more, and you'll have more confidence in speaking up. If you don't support the change, ask yourself if you're still in the right place. Are you still in the right job? Are you still making the right decision and staying with this company? Depending on how big the change is and how much it's going to affect you. Be a positive influencer. The last company that I worked for, I've used them as an example several times. We developed a culture committee, and we had a lot of negativity around this culture committee. And so we brought some of the people that were negative, we brought into the culture committee as part of the committee. And they just caused ruckus after ruckus after ruckus after ruckus. This was a change. We were trying to change the culture of the organization because there was a very negative culture around different departments, different people in the organization that are actually really good people. But it was just how the organization had been run before with the previous CEO. It was a very dictatorial environment. And so we had people that were on that committee, and we kept saying to them, if you're going to be on the committee, you're volunteering to be on the committee. And you are also volunteering that you are going to support and implement the changes that we're looking at. You are going to be part of the process, part of how we implement the change and what kind of changes we implement, but you have to be positive about it. They still didn't support the change and they weren't positive about it. So it took a lot of processing and a lot of surveys to convince them that we were going in the right direction. When you have a majority of people going in the right direction and they believe in what you're doing, it makes a difference. So be the positive influencer of change, even when you don't agree. And that's what I'm saying about this committee, is that sometimes it's really hard for us to agree for the changes, but you have to be that positive influencer. And they will hear that voice and they will start coming to you, and you will be a voice that matters even more. Be visible. Don't sit in your cubby and do not get out when they're having social time. If it's CEO or executives are in the break room, don't be intimidated. Go in there, get a cup of coffee, get a glass of water, kind of laugh with them. Hey, how's everybody doing today? Those little moves and those little steps will help you be more confident in getting your voice heard. Just walking in there and saying, hey, I saw, the annual report came out and this intrigued me. Like, let them know that you were looking at things and seeing things. Be visible in a positive way, bringing positive things to the table, or bringing good ideas to the table. Ask to present at different meetings. And we're going to talk about, if you have a struggle of presenting or talking in front of people, some of the things that you can do to get around that. Engage with other people, and when you're visible, communicate well. Know what you want to say. Do your research. One of the things that companies are challenged with today is really training their employees. So it's really up to you to do your research outside of the workplace. Know what your resources are, understanding different parts of the business that maybe don't have anything to do with what you're doing, but they have enough to do with the business that you should just know about them. If you want to level up, then you have to be visible and you have to understand what's going on around you. So do your best to be that person that people are like, oh, she's resourceful. He's resourceful. He's finding different information. So here's my bonus tip for you. If you are someone that doesn't really like to speak in public and has a really hard time just speaking, and maybe, we have, I know several people that when they do speak, or even speak in front of one or two people and they're nervous, their neck turns red. There's things that you can do for that. And one of the things that you can do is just get more comfortable speaking in front of people. You can join Toastmasters. There's a lot of Toastmasters groups, and they're only $65 a year to join a Toastmasters group. And they meet weekly, you do presentations, and you just get more and more comfortable with how to word things, how to speak, how to understand what you're saying, how to slow down enough that you know what to say, how to listen. So Toastmasters is a really good place to start if you want to speak in front of other people. If you have different ideas that you're afraid to roll out, but you really want to have people know what your ideas are, run them by another colleague, whether it be a teammate, whether it be your supervisor or manager, but somebody that you really trust. Run those ideas by them and ask them what they think about your idea. And if they are feeling that you have a good idea, that will build your confidence to be able to speak it up in a meeting or be a part of a meeting on a different situation. Now, I'm going to go into my coaching world. And how many of you have gone to a coach? Just go ahead and put in the comments, how many of you have actually gone to a coach? I will tell you, a coach is a life-changing event. It will help you to learn how to speak in the workplace. But one of the number one things that I would do as a coach for someone that has a hard time speaking up is understanding where that fear is coming from. Typically, there's something in our life somebody said to us or did to us that creates that fear. Maybe somebody said that you were stupid when you were asked a question, and that shut you down forever. I have had situations in my life that have prevented me from doing things. And once I get in touch with the fear and where that came from, then I understand it better and usually am able to move forward. So understanding where that fear comes from, where you feel it in your body, and getting a coach to help you overcome that fear, to be able to understand how to speak up, when to speak up, and building that confidence may be really important. The other thing to get a coach for is dealing with difficult people in the workplace. This is one of the areas that people struggle with the most as far as speaking up, is dealing with conflict or addressing a difficult person or being in a meeting where you know someone's going to be difficult. Those are the situations where people struggle the most. And I want to encourage you to reach out to get a coach if you have those difficult situations in the workplace. We can help you grow in those areas. There's a lot of opportunity to grow. When you say nothing at all, silence is acceptance. Silence is acceptance. We don't want to just accept everything that comes our way. We want to share what our thoughts are. We want to share methodically, strategically, and we want them to align with what the business needs are. Not what our own personal needs are, but what our business needs are. I have a friend that works with a guy. My friend is a division manager, and the guy is one of his employees. He's a mechanic. And my friend keeps asking me how to deal with him because the mechanic's basically telling him how to run the shop. And I guess this guy has been there for a couple of years and he's just a troublemaker. And I just say to him, you know, sometimes you got to sit down and talk to these people and understand where they're coming from and why they're coming from that direction. And some people just don't understand how to run a business. And so what I want to share with you there is that you don't want to be that person. If you have constant negativity and an aura around you that is exuding non-participation, not wanting to be part of the change, then when you do speak up, people really don't listen. And I just want to be heartful about that because I know that can be hurtful as well as eye-opening. People have to respect you in order to hear your voice. And we really have to self-evaluate sometimes. I've had to do it many times in my life. Of why aren't people respecting me, or why aren't people liking me, or how come people aren't listening to what my ideas are? I have great ideas. And maybe you do have great ideas, but how they're being presented are not the way to present. So I go back to my friend that has this guy that he works with. If the man were to, the employee were to present things in a different way, instead of angry or calling in sick because they get mad about the way that things are being operated, or they run to their union representative, or they run to other employees, the manager is likely not going to listen, right, to what they have to say. So silence is acceptance, but silence sometimes is the best way to go about things too. But if you're sitting in a meeting and you don't agree, or something is really going to impact your workload, if you have the relationships and you have the respect, as we talked about in number 1, and you don't say anything, then silence is acceptance. You can't complain if you're not going to share where you think that maybe some things should be different and why. Deliver. Find your value in your organization and deliver your voice. Deliver your voice and deliver what matters. You have a value in your organization. If you need to build relationships, then build relationships. Take some time. Give yourself time. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year, maybe it's 3 months. Maybe you're already there, but you're just not speaking up. Then you need to go to step 3, and you need to get a coach to help you to speak up in the workplace and share that information. No, Know when the time is right to say something and to not say something. There's a time for everything. And when the time is right for you and for them. Sometimes it's not your time to say anything. Maybe you're nervous about saying something at that point, or maybe you need to do more research before you speak up. Some of the statistics show that 47% of people don't speak up in the workplace. And then I'm sure there's a percentage that do speak up that we would rather them not speak up because they don't understand and they haven't done the research, kind of like the gentleman of the employee of the division manager that I know. So we need to know when the right time is for everybody for our voice to be heard. And if we're in a room and we start talking when there's a lot of chatter going on, then your voice isn't going to be heard. Sometimes we need to pause. And if you're somebody that goes to meetings and doesn't really share information, and now all of a sudden you're speaking up, people are going to listen, especially if you know what you're talking about. They will listen and they will respect you. So that is a wrap today. I'm going to leave some time for questions. I just want to share with you a couple of other things that I do. I do a lot of training. I do some masterminds. I am part of the John Maxwell team. So I do presentations around John Maxwell as well. Employee handbooks, individual coaching, one-on-one coaching. As I talked about before, if you're struggling in the workplace, I really encourage you to get a coach to help you. I'm also an HR consultant. And my passion is around developing employees. My passion is around developing people to speak up in the workplace, especially women. A lot of times we're in a room with a lot of men, especially for an executive role. There's less women in an executive role than there are men. And sometimes it's a struggle to be heard in those or be understood. And I can help you get through that. I have been a city council member, an elected official. I'm currently a appointed commissioner for the city of Kennewick, or the Kennewick Housing Authority. And sometimes it's a struggle to get your voice heard in those situations. And so I really had to learn the dynamics. I've had to learn to understand other people. I can help you do the same. I can help you create your life and your voice the way you want to be heard, launch that voice, and transform you into someone that comes with valuable information and that people listen to. So take some time today and assess your situation, and then come back and share with me what you found out. My email is here. I would love to hear from you. And I hope that you have a great day and enjoy the rest of leveling up. Thank you.